And it gives me great pleasure to introduce the first speaker for today's session. And he shall be Distinguished Toastmaster Lim Seow Ho, otherwise known as S.H. Lim. Now, S.H. is a headhunter of the modern variety without the machete and the axe. He works with Manpower, which is a leading headhunting company. And in his job, he interviews 30 to 40 people a month. So you can imagine the insights that he has across different age groups and across different levels of professions. He has been a Toastmaster for 12 years, and he says that the experience has transformed him from an introvert to an extrovert. He's taken on various roles in Toastmasters, and he's won many awards, just a few of which would be the Raising Phoenix Award, the President Distinguished Division Director Award, and he was also in Victor Ong's shoes last year because he was the very hardworking organizing chair for last year's District 51 conference. Now, SH tells me that his hobbies are watching movies, traveling, and if anybody wants to find discounted items and needs someone to bargain for them, he's the one because he loves bargain hunting. So here to talk to us on Are You Ready for the Change is Distinguished Toastmaster S.H. Lim.
Well, everyone, how are you? Are you still here? Yeah, thank you very much. I have been in Toastmasters for 12 years. Within the 12 years, I have been transformed. Learning from tricks to tricks, doing all the assignments, and it have transformed me from an introvert. I used to be a person who don't talk. You don't hear me talking for days because I don't like to talk. I hate humans. I'm an engineer. I prefer to work with machines rather than work with humans because humans are hard. It's hard even to guess what they are thinking about. All right? I'm not going to that part about women and wife. Well, today, modern technologies, we see people have been communicating. I notice club facing problems, challenges. Why? Just because more and more millennium baby join Toastmaster Club. And we face challenges. Their thinkings are different from ours. You may run the club for the past 10, 20 years without any problems. And suddenly, you're facing challenges of membership, right? People just don't stay anymore. They come in, they learn, and they go. What is the problem happening? Well, I have visited a few clubs, and I noticed that the most important lies down is communications. Nowadays, how many of you using Facebook? Come on, let's show our hands. Yeah, thank you. How many of you using WhatsApp? Great, we are there. WeChat, getting lesser. Snapchat, even lesser. See, for those who raise up all their hands, every single time I mention that, those are the millennium babies. They are totally different. The way they talk to us and communicate. How many times of you, when you send a message to WhatsApp, the return from their message is emoji? How many of you receive emoji and you have hard time understand it? Please don't be shy. I have problem understanding the emoji. Why you send me an emoji which I don't understand? And I always have to call upon my younger daughters. Come girl, what is this? What it means? Right. That is how hard to communicate. But just imagine, emoji have become a type of language in modern world. If you don't speak the language, is it hard to communicate? It will be. Right. Imagine that if we go over to China, you speak English, he speaks Chinese. What will happen? Communication barrier. And that is because the language are different. Here, you may talk to your son or daughter or even your club members, but they talk a different language. By all means, millennium babies and baby boomers have different kind of thought. The thoughts are different. That's why some of the club, they run it differently. Iron claws. How many of you are facing that? Iron claws? Yeah, just now Kimberly talked about that. Yes, it is. Why? That is our part of our generations, where everything follow rules and regulations. But within the new for the millennium babies, they believe it differently. They wanted something to be more creative, challenging. So the response are different. So that's why it's so hard to talk to them until you understand them. I was one coming back to our club and looking at our own club. We face that problem also and start to understand the club. I'm noticing that the club have more and more millennium babies. First thing I do, sit down, understand how they thought, how they think. By understand more and how they do, then we start to understand how to communicate. Nobody cares about you until you care about them. That's the most important thing. For me, previously I also have hard time communicate with my daughters. They are much, much younger than I am. And today, my daughters, after I try to understand them, coaching with them, they join Toastmasters today. And they're showing to me that the results show that we do communicate. Because firstly, we must understand there's a lot of channel of communication. If we don't pick up the right channel, it's hard for us to communicate on the right channel. You will agree? All right, let's look at why we fear. Because whenever we go into a different type of language, we have a fear that going to the unknown. Yes, to infinity and beyond. That is what we are looking for, right? But how many of you actually dare to take the leap of faith? How many of you dare to do that? You are in control. Why you want to let go of the control and face the unknown? That's the fear which people are so reluctant to let it go. I was once like that also. Until I let it go, I gained back my daughters. Just imagine if I would not doing that, my character, an introvert, will be, no, you listen to me. Like the Chinese always like to say, I eat more salt compared to what you eat in your bowls of rice. Because my experience are more than who you are. But surprisingly, with the technology nowadays, the millennium babies are growing up so fast that you can't even imagine. They are even more wiser than what we are. A lot of things we are not aware, they know. Don't just treat them as baby anymore. They are far more wiser than we are. They are far more open-minded than compared to we are because of the internet. Do you believe that? Sensitive, why? They are far more sensitive than we are. They know. Do you agree, millennium baby? Do you agree that a lot of times you are facing problem that the senior just do not understand? Do you have that? Yes. So that's why I would like to bring it up. This is the time for us to think about what we have done. I believe every one of us have barrier with our children, with our club members, and also with our colleagues. Communication is what we learn in Toastmasters. We have so much skill. A lot of times, maybe because we are leaders in our company, leading, we just forget that we need to unlearn and relearn what we have known. This is a part of area which we never even thought about. Children are growing up so fast that we couldn't even catch up to them. That's why they retaliate. That's why members retaliate and move on. Because just like just now, someone brought it up. They are iron clawing the thing. I better. If they cannot win over you, they will leave the club. Leaders, it's time to wake up. For me as well, everybody need to wake up. Start to understanding. That's the way to go. So much channel of communicating. If we don't learn how to communicate with them, we will lose them. Do you agree that sitting down communicating daily, it will help? It does. Right. So, just to share with everyone, for me, I have done that. I believe most of us need to go through that. I have still much more to learn. Because just like for my job, I do interviews, so many of them. And I notice the result coming back from each one of them are different. We would think that they would actually answer by this way. But the interviewer, we receive from the candidate, he answered it differently. And to kind of think of it, nowadays, the thinking are different from ours. We would expect them to do, and they are not. By not understanding this culture, we may not guide them back to the right path. Even during interviews, we give hints. We give them another direction so that they will understand and reply us correctly. Do you believe by speaking the same language, there is still language barrier? I experienced that when I went to China 7 years ago. I speak Chinese. The other party speak Chinese. And we argue every day. For 1 full year. We are speaking on the same item, same subject. Never agreeable. Because the thinking are different. Until one day, I say enough is enough. 12 months of quarrel is enough. Let's sit down, have a coffee, and talk. After that, we just found out that whatever we want are the same. And why are we quarreling about? It's because the way I put it and the way she accept it and the way she put it are different. So I believe clearing out those differences, it will help all our clubs, our family, as well as our friends. Sometimes just miscommunications, or you may think that the wording came out is like this. It should be happy, but actually they are sad. Because words is very hard to define feelings. That's what Mark just been said. Emoji helps. Sometimes you say, in this scenario, I don't like it either. Then you put a sad face. We know that you are not happy without it. But I don't like the scenario. Then you put a happy face. Maybe you like it. So that is so somehow easier to understand. By doing that, people are communicating. So in the next round, if you are, make it easier for everyone to understand you. If I tell you, I don't like the girl, then if I make you a funny face, then you say it may be a joke. So it's so easy to understand rather than trying to guess whether what he's trying to implement. Is he like you or is he just making a joke? It's so hard to understand human. That's why at times I prefer to deal with machine rather than human. So I believe for those who join Toastmasters, you go through the program, they have helped each one of us, right? They have transformed us. How many of you have not been transformed? Oh, let me rephrase. How many of you have been transformed? I see more hands compared to how many of you using WeChat and Snapchat. See, we have been transformed. Understand it, share it with the new members. And that will not only helping you yourself, it will also enlighten the new members and help everyone to communicate better. And I hope the next time you face with obstacle, challenges, don't just say, I just give up. You are those kind of people. Instead, ask yourself, is this the time for me to change? Ask yourself, is this time for me to change? If you are not, you will definitely be obsolete. Back to you.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster SH, for such a heartfelt talk. SH has actually helped to nurture and revive many clubs in his area and district, so he is speaking from hard-earned experience. Our next speaker is also a very experienced Toastmaster. Distinguished Toastmaster Mark McKenzie is a senior financial sector specialist. He's been a Toastmaster for 17 years and is currently, although he's Canadian of Jamaican heritage, he is in the process of being Malaysianized. He is the Vice President of Public Relations for KL Advanced, and he's also a member of Lecton Kuala Lumpur. Mark has held various roles at club and district levels, and the issues that ignite Mark's passion are youth violence, poverty, homelessness, and diversity. He enjoys coaching and mentoring, and for relaxation, apart from speaking at Toastmasters clubs, he goes cycling and hiking. Mark's favorite quote, "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones." Here to present his speech on communications 24/7, posting and sharing, please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Mark McKenzie.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, fellow Toastmasters, and indeed those who are not Toastmasters. I am truly delighted to be here this afternoon. I have to extend my gratitude to Victor Ang and the organizing committee for actually inviting me to participate in this session. I'm also grateful for the people of Malaysia, because I've been living in Malaysia now for the past 2 years. So I'm honored that I have been given this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts around some of the new tools with which we're growing accustomed to use in our daily communications. I am on Facebook, I am on Twitter, I am on LinkedIn. My wife, my son, my daughter would like me to get an Instagram. But I'm 50 years old. I can't cope with all those tools. So in 2013, a 30-year-old lady, her title, Director of Communications, boarded a flight in New York, and she started tweeting. She arrived in Heathrow on her way to South Africa. And at Heathrow, her tweet was, "Going to Africa, I hope I don't get AIDS. I am white. LOL." You have heard from previous speakers, if you were in the sessions earlier, one speaker spoke about the emotions. You just heard the previous speaker spoke about learning to connect with others through these new medias. Indeed, we should. The reality, however, is that there are dangers and there are pitfalls. And my goal this afternoon is to share with you some of the examples. They can get you embarrassed. They can get you to lose cases that you have in court. they can get you fired. So I want to share some examples with you as to how these happen and how can you avoid the pitfalls. So bear with me. I believe the slides were necessary for this to enhance the power of what I want to share with you, if I can get it to work. Third. Okay, there we go. And we go there. Okay, how many of you know who is Lewis Hamilton? Just raise your hand. Good. He's perhaps the world's most famous race car driver today. This Christmas, and I point with this one, he posted on Instagram, "Boys don't wear princess dress." He was referring to his nephew, perhaps a child 3 years old. Boys don't wear princess dresses. This Instagram post caused Lewis Hamilton a fair degree of embarrassment because we are in the period of empowering all. We're in the period of gender equality. It is disgraceful to shame a little boy so publicly. So the public was on top of Lewis Hamilton for this post. But Lewis Hamilton never got the message. What he did on Twitter was to like the post of the people who supported his original post. In other words, we're in this period where something is posted and we automatically like it. So those who liked it failed to recognize that there was a fair degree of animosity, kickbacks against this post. Another one. Do you know who is Lord? Yes. If you're a New Zealand, Australian, you should know who she is. Her Instagram post was, "Day off, and I will always love you." And there's a bathtub there. Now let me ask you this. Is there anything wrong with this post? Is there anything wrong with this post? Now, this is not a rhetorical question. We just had a session on rhetorical. Is there anything wrong with this post? Do you say, why? What? Somebody said yes. Just shout it out. What's wrong with it?
No one's there.
No one's there? Huh? Precisely. So it is insensitive. It is insensitive. It is insensitive. So these tools, as the previous speaker mentioned, they are here. I get paid to travel around the world to tell people about the things they learn as children. Be respectful, exercise empathy, be kind. Not because we can't see the others when we are doing these things, mean that we should do it without empathy, without regard for others. So, remember that list of don'ts that your parents shared with you as a child. Even in this period and my lovely and beautiful wife just walked into the room, and my amazing 9-year-old daughter just walked into the room. Now, the point is, these tools are not going away. They are here to stay. But we have to be mindful of the pitfalls that are there. So allow me to share a few others. This is from 2015. And this one I found to be remarkable. This is the Dalhousie University somewhere in Western Canada. I live in Toronto for the last couple of years. A group of dental students. So they are not just, they're not, the people who come and pick our garbage up or the people who clean our bathrooms. These are supposed to be a part of the intelligentsia of our societies. These are students that have made it to dental school. What do these students do? On Facebook, they establish a Facebook group for the sole purpose of sharing some disgraceful and atrocious post about females. Remember, in this period, these things can get you embarrassed. They were suspended from school. I think this case is still ongoing. So we don't know if they will actually get their dental certificate in the end. So I'm 50 years old, so I have some of my admired students from Unirazak, and I see some younger people in here. Be mindful what you do when you're 20. At 50, I'm still mindful in terms of what I do. And I'm sure there are others here who are older than I am, who are still mindful in terms of what you do. Take care. Now, I mentioned earlier that one of the things that can actually happen if you're not mindful in terms of what you do on these platforms is that you actually can get fired. So I think the Dalhousie students, they were suspended. They may be kicked out of school. So if you're a student, you may be kicked out of school. If you're an employee and you do it, it depends on what the policy is, you can get fired. So what's the story here? Randy Jones injured himself at work. He was on medical leave. At the time when he was supposed to return to work, doctors issued a further medical leave requirement for him. So his leave was extended. And what did he do when his leave was extended? He went on holidays, and he was sitting on the beach. And he was posting pictures of himself sitting on the beach. And at work, he was a supervisor. And he was sharing these pictures with his colleagues at work. Now, the company had policies around social media. And one of it, if, your colleague is sitting on the beach and he's posting and I'm at work and, he should have been back at work, it's not going to create a happy environment. He was fired. He went to court. He took his employers to court. And the court ruled that he operated in contravention to the company's social media policy. Now, I started with this one, and I will end with this one, because this, for me, is one of the most outrageous one I've seen. And before I share a little bit more around this one, how many of you are on the WhatsApp group that was created for this conference? Yeah. All right, and I intended was to message someone in that group. And this is, I'm sharing this to tell you that we have to be mindful. Because sometimes what starts out in jest can turn disastrous very easily. So within the group yesterday, the question was, I can't wear one of those masks, the mask, because I have skin, I may have skin thing. And that was, it was all in jest. And I'm sharing this because I don't know if the person who is here, I'm sharing this. And it's not, I have no intention to shame anyone here or anything like that. But what I'm sharing is how these things can easily ripple. Now, someone wanting to heighten the joke posted a photograph of someone wearing a hijab. Well, let me share this with you. In Ontario, a few weeks ago, an 11-year-old Muslim girl was on her way to school and someone ripped her face mask, her mask off. So I'm sharing these things to you that we have to be mindful. And in fact, with a post yesterday within the WhatsApp group, it was, oh, I'm a Taliban. Well, in 2011, I worked in Afghanistan. In 2011, I came face to face with the Taliban. So what I'm suggesting to you is that sometimes we start these things out in jest, but they can ripple into something else. And Jessica Seiko, you would believe that her title as Director of Communication would have prepared her for not doing something like this. 30 years old. She lost her job. 11 hours between Heathrow and South Africa. When she landed in South Africa, she was out of a job. So how do you avert all of this? I say you should be respectful. Exercise empathy. If in fact you make a mistake, if you can delete it, delete it. But in this space, nothing goes away. It stays there forever. And finally, take care with what you do. Exercise empathy, maintain respect, and we can continue to use these tools in a gracious way.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Mark McKenzie. That's indeed a sobering and timely reminder to all of us, because as Malaysians, sometimes the analogy that comes to mind when we use social media is Malaysian drivers. On social media, we are like when we are in our cars. You know the joke about Malaysian drivers, right? We are so polite outside of our cars until we get behind the wheel. Well, on the internet, some Malaysians also forget that they still have to abide by rules of society, and they think that anonymity, or we think that anonymity grants us the license to speak our minds without any veil. So what Mark has reminded us is indeed timely, because we live in an age where everything is interconnected and everything can be screenshot. If anyone here told their bosses that they were on medical leave, please don't post pictures of the conference on your social media pages, okay? So now we come to our third speaker, who came all the way from Bali, Indonesia, and she is distinguished Toastmaster Miranda Rumi. Now, Miranda resides in Ubud, Bali. She studied modern languages and also did her MBA in California. She worked in hospitality in Germany, the Maldives, and Thailand, so she's been all around the world. And she also set up a women's accessories company in Bali when she returned, a company which she took care of for 16 years, so she was also an entrepreneur. She's now focused entirely on an area of passion, which is interpersonal communications, where she's a coach, mentor, speaker, and also a specialist in listening in Indonesia. She has authored this book called Listening is Sexy. So that's a sexy title by itself. And she also co-founded Sekolah Diatmika, Bali's first bilingual school, and an environmental NGO, PPLH Bali. So let's welcome distinguished Toastmaster Miranda with her speech, Conscious Communication is Compassionate Communication.
Well, you must be a bit antsy. It's the last one. I know this is like the final talk and probably getting tired. And so we'll make it a little bit more relaxed. And I'm going just to share mostly, instead of giving a special talk, I'm going to share about what I've been very focused or been very interested, I would say, in the past 2 years. And that is about human suffering. I'm a life coach, and through the progress, through the process in my life, which I would say this all started with Toastmasters, when I joined Toastmasters 10 years ago, being very bad communicator, bad listener, and bad speaker and all that. And so I became a coach, and in the past 2 years, I really saw so many people came to me who come and very stressed out, a lot of suffering and feeling empty. And many of them are in their 30s and some as couples in their 40s, 50s. And the core of it, what I found is the communication, the unconscious communication. So for example, I'll tell you a story about this one of the clients that I have, and his name is John. We just call him John. And he was sharing with me, and then at some point he was saying, my stepdad is an asshole. And my son is so stubborn. He just never listened. He just lost in his own world. So mind you, John is a very, very successful person. He's a millionaire. He's a charming man. He's a great salesperson. But yet, through his sharing, I realized he knows nothing about his own self. He doesn't know what he feels. So when I ask, what do you mean your stepdad is an asshole? Well, he just does these things, shitty things. What does that mean? What shitty things? And he couldn't really answer that. And we dig and we dig. And he still couldn't. I said, John, I mean, you're you're suppressing a lot of anger right now. No, I'm good with anger, right? I can express when my anger, and I said, to whom? Well, if I feel angry, I just say what I feel. But I said, that's very dangerous because you're harming a lot of people and making people feel sad, feel bad, feel terrible. And somehow he didn't get that. So I said, okay, give me an example. What was one of the things that happened? All right, so this is with his son that he thought was stubborn, as very difficult. And he said, Tommy always comes late to dinner or to any meals. We all have to wait for him, and by the time he comes, we've already been calling him several times, and by that time, the mood was shot. And this happened every time, right? So I said, so what did you do? He would just say, he said, I would tell him, why are you doing this again and again and again? But he said this every time, this happens, so meal times. So the point in here is that often we say something is something, Laura, like somebody is an asshole, somebody is toxic, but we don't really know what we mean by that. And Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, have you heard of nonviolent communication? Yeah. He said that if you understand the need of the person, any problems, any chronic problems can be solved in 20 minutes. And so tonight, I know this can be very long, but we'll make it just very short. So hopefully you can go back with something. So especially if you have experienced problems communicating with people in a way that you have to explain things, and using logic, but you never get anywhere. And what I mean by not getting anywhere is that you still feel, somehow I feel very thirsty. Let me just get some water. Thank you. Somehow the communication still leaves you feeling not satisfied. Have you ever felt like that? You have a tiff or you have an argument, and then you try to explain and you use the best logic, and you feel like you listen to the other person, but you're still left like nothing is resolved. And so there are 4 things that in nonviolent communication that is used. The first thing is the skill of observation. And this is what we mean by this, like what is actually the person is doing that you feel angry about or annoyed about. So let's say John is my dad is an asshole. What did he do? Well, when he screamed at me, actually, what did he say? So we want to be like more specific about what is actually being done, right? Instead of just like, well, he just makes me annoyed. What is it exactly that makes you or us annoyed? And then see, what does that thing make us feel? There's something that we react to immediately. There's a thinking, there's a thought, and that's what we need to see. Like, how does that make you feel? Do you feel upset? And why are you upset? And when you're upset, then look at what is this that makes you upset? Oh, let's say I feel I'm disrespected, or I feel I'm not important, or I'm not acknowledged and appreciated. And if you can really look at that, then you can look, that's what I'm feeling, right? And what is it that I really want? I want acknowledgement, I want respect. Then you can become very clear about the sequence of how you come to that thought about the other person. Does this make sense? I'm trying to squeeze everything in a very short time. All right. So for example, let me just give you a very simple example. Have you ever been passed by on the road? Like you're driving or you're riding something, and then somebody just passed you, and then you felt very annoyed. You feel asshole or doing something like that. Yeah, it's like, maybe you don't think much about it, but if you really stop and think about it and check inside, and what is it? Why am I feeling like annoyed? Oh, I feel disrespected. And then you have this thought. You're telling yourself, oh, they think they have the road, like I don't have the rights to the road, and you're just taking over. And so if you look underneath that, why am I feeling like that? Actually, there's a feeling of like you're not important. They're feeling important, and you're not important. So if we just stop and take a moment to look at what is it that bothers us, triggered by other people, or why the other person makes us angry and makes us think that they're making us angry. But if you just look inside, there's this feeling, okay, there's a need that is not being met. The need for respect, the need for acknowledgement, and I think, if you're talking about your parents, a lot of times it's a need for acceptance, unconditional acceptance, or for your kids, it's respect, understanding, right? So if we allow ourselves to see what is it that our needs that are not being met, that are causing us to react and be angry or be annoyed, then it's already a gap. There's a pause there. And we're no longer just blaming the other person, but actually taking the responsibility to ourselves, and then just feel, okay, actually, yeah, I'm the one who's not feeling, not having that, what I wanted, not being accepted. And if you just stay with that, and this is probably a bit counter-natural in a way, even though it should be very natural, That's when you feel something, if you just stay with it long enough, then it will disappear. And then you will find that you're no longer blaming the other person or hating the other person or feeling grudge or just feeling like separate, not wanting to be close with that person and staying away from them until you may be forgetting or, it's not as hard. But if you've processed this very quickly, just like, okay, something happened here and I feel annoyed or angry or enraged, and just stop and even just acknowledging, I'm angry right now. I'm angry right now. Okay, why am I angry? What is really making me angry? And to understand that it's never about the other person that is doing that to us, but there's something inside us that responds. So there must be something that is already inside that is flashing back to whatever is done right now. Just by having that break, having that pause, is already helping us to sort of like break that burst of anger that stops us from responding or reacting like as if we don't have any control about it. Have you ever experienced something like that? Yeah. And so we find a lot of people around us who are very accomplished, they're amazing, but somehow in their family life or in their personal life, they're having a lot of difficulty just being centered, or the logic doesn't work, the eloquence doesn't work, the public speaking skills doesn't work, because it's all about emotion. So in summary, first is observe. Observe what is really happening, the factual thing that happens that can be sensed by your senses, what you saw. Sorry, this is like I think I had too much MSG in the last food I ate. So the first thing is like, what is really happening? What did you see happening? What was being said? What did you hear? What did you see? And what did you feel immediately? Or sometimes there's a bodily sensation. You don't think about that. You think it's normal, but somehow your body is contracting, or you feel tense, or you feel sick in the stomach. Anybody ever experienced that? Yeah, and you don't even know. But I tell you, whenever you have that, it's actually a sign of fear. There's something that is making you scared and fearful, but this is not a new fear. So it's something that you had experienced as fear, and usually as a very young child. And then observe, and then see, when that happened, what did I feel? How did my body react, and what did I feel about that? Actually, I feel rather sad or angry or just, confused. And the more you can look back into yourself, the quicker you actually solve that thing. And then you're not going to blame the other person, judge the other person, or eject them from your life. Because, if you notice, whenever you're a bit annoyed at somebody else, you don't want to be close with that person. You want to be like putting them away, or put a distance. So, but the minute you can release this thing, it becomes like neutral, and then you will see the other person as innocent again. Like, they are just the way they are. It's their issues. They're not doing it to me. They're just being them, and then you can make a choice from that place. Do I want to take that, or I can take a step back and just let the other person calm down first, instead of like trying to put sense into them, trying to make them understand, trying to make them see things the way you see them, which is always like very frustrating and taking a lot of times. So first observe, and then feel, and then see what is it inside you that is not being met. What is it? What did you want? Why it makes you sad? Because deep down, I want some acknowledgement, or I want some acceptance, or just understanding. So just acknowledge that need to yourself and feel that. And in my work, I would say mourn that. Feel the sadness of not having that in your life. If you can feel your sadness about that, it goes very quickly. And then within minutes, you're already normal again, and you don't feel that angry sense inside you that you're just projecting, not just to the people, the person that triggers you, but it could be to the people around you, and just like you're angry at your staff, you're angry at your kids, you're angry at your dogs, at your mates, and all that, right? So I hope this helps. I know this is it's a bit different than the other ones, but thank you. And yeah, I wanted to refer to you, but I'm running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Miranda. I think that today, for this session, we really drilled down below the surface of what communications is. And we learned from distinguished Toastmaster SH, for example, about the need to adapt to new styles of communication so that we can better understand, particularly the younger generation. We learned from distinguished Toastmaster Mark the need to be careful about what we post online, and also the need to think about how our words may be interpreted or misinterpreted by the other. And we learned from distinguished Toastmaster Miranda the need for us to reflect and to put a distance between what triggers us emotionally and to discover what is inside of us that needs to be fulfilled, why that trigger is going off. So these are quite deep issues, and I'm pretty certain that some of you have questions for our speakers. So I'd like to open the floor now for a short Q&A, and already I have a hand going up. Please introduce yourself. Please use the microphone and direct your question.
Thank you. I'm Yi Kang from TMI KL. There's one question I would like Speaker Mark McKenzie. Thank you, Mark, for taking my questions. So I would like to ask, do you agree that no publicity is bad publicity? Because from what I can observe, Donald Trump makes the worst Twitter update. But for every hater that he has another new follower. So what gives? According to you, we would have to constantly censor ourselves. Doesn't it take a part that is innate in us away? Because I find it when I post motivational quotes on Facebook, I get 5 likes. When I give jabs to the leader and his wife who embezzled money, and I get 50 likes. So it means to say that people do love the negativity, and I do love the attention. So what is your opinion on this?
I appreciate the question, but I think my job is primarily as a banking system, financial system regulator. And one of the things that I do know is that bad news travels faster than good news. So, and it's a good thing when we're hearing, and it's been spread that the bank manager embezzled $10 million. And this morning I heard that, the Commonwealth Bank in Australia, that they were charging fees for advice to the dead. It's to those that have passed away, and they have passed away a very long time, to the dead. So that is outrageous, and that news should travel very fast so as we can be more prudent with our bankers, just as we are to be prudent as individuals as well. Now, there is an incident ongoing now with Starbucks and 2 gentlemen who they called the police on. And what you have seen from Starbucks, and I'm saying this to make the point that your reputation and your integrity should precede you. How Starbucks leadership is responding to this incident is that the CEO has closed all the stores and is taking all the employees into an awareness program. And Starbucks is able to do it because it has the strength and the reputation and integrity to do it. As individuals, we also have to have that credibility and integrity in terms of what it is. We naturally gravitate to the things that will hurt us. We're told not to drive beyond the speed limit, and we drive beyond the speed limit. All right? So it's innate in us as human beings. So I say, still exercise care, and especially I'm 50 years old. My youngest is over there. She's 9 years old. But I have a daughter that's 25 years old, and I have a son that is 22 years old. And just today, I read an article online that resonated with me as a parent, and I emailed it to them, and I started the email by saying, I don't even know if you still use this email. All right, but I sent it. So the point is, your reputation, credibility, integrity should precede you. We're human beings, and we act with emotions.
Thank you. Do we have a next question? I think the answer is also a reminder to us that, well, there is a question that I ask myself whenever I want to post something online. Would I say this to that person face to face? And if your answer is no, then maybe you should reflect on whether you should be posting that online or not. Okay, we have a question from this gentleman.
Testing. Hello, everyone. My name is Miranda from Miranda Toastmasters Club, and I have a question. I have a question for distinguished Master Mark. And before that, I would like to apologize for the length and the language I will be using for this question. So recently, last year, there was a YouTube star who happened to did a video going to a well-known suicide forest in Japan. And what he did was that he went over the designated road, and he came across a dead body with a noose around his neck. And the first thing that he did was to make fun of this body, talking about the family and joking around with the body itself. So, of course, this received many backlash. However, YouTube was aware of this problem and, well, deleted that video. However, he is still very much active on YouTube. YouTube didn't block him or ban him from YouTube at all. So, as you can tell, people were outraged on this. Many comments were saying very horrible things about him, very horrible language about him. So my question to you is, for us, how can we as a society handle these horrific incidents in a very rational way? Then that is all from me. Thank you.
This is one of the most amazing Toastmasters I've met at Unirazak. So it's one of the individuals who have kept me going in Toastmasters. And in fact, all the students at Unirazak, they inspire me. They are my children, my adult children age, so they inspire me. And that's how I come to know about these YouTube videos. I think certainly one of the issues that I've grappled with, and I think the period in which we are in this period, is this notion of moral police. I think, I went to an all-male school in Kingston, Jamaica, and I had young men who inspired me. And I had older men who inspired me when my father was absent. This is speaking to conscientiousness, all right? Because I question myself around how much of a moral police we should be. I think what is obvious, for example, in the case of the Japanese YouTuber, is the site was almost sacramental. It was a holy place. What does these things speak to? It's respect for culture. It's respect for religion. In the 1970s, I was watching my grandmother in rural Jamaica as a farmer. Jamaican. Half the people I travel with in Malaysia in the grab car don't know where Jamaica is. But at 50, I'm standing here in Malaysia. I've done it because of a respect for culture, respect for religion, respect for others, recognizing that we are, though we are different, we're similar. If we can reconnect with our conscientiousness, we may be able to do without authoritative governments and regulation to regulate how we deal with these things. So as individuals, we have to be conscientious. But as we're seeing today, the issue of bullying, for example, it requires government intervention in the form of legislation. In Canada, in Western Ontario, I believe it was a 13-year-old girl, was so bullied, she hung herself. And there are many stories like that around. Well, that is not just our individual conscientiousness. It's our conscientiousness collectively as people. And when that fails, we need people like me who send people to prison. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a third question? Okay, we have two questions. Okay, very quick questions from these two gentlemen, and then we have to wrap it up. Okay, all right. Please, okay. Who wants to go first? If you can head towards the microphone there.
Hello everyone, my name is, is it working? Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Yun An. I'm from Gamunda Toastmaster Club. I would just like to have some, I have some suggestions, I have some questions for distinguished Toastmaster Miss Miranda Rumi on her. Oh, is my voice loud enough to
Yes,
hear
loud.
that already? Even
Just speak up.
Okay, all right, okay. Cause currently I heard from if correct me if I'm wrong. If I earlier heard you said your speech earlier was about like saying sometimes in life we might not be able to get what we want and then we feel agitated like that one. But I know for because if I want to craft a speech on something around like and it's a speech around somewhere around the line like positivity like that, is it, or something like that? Because I noticed from the starting to the end, is it something like conversation, like you were using it's just like those conversational but like cheerful and calm one in this one? Because I noticed like there's another point that we can take back also is we face like if we may not able to get what we want in life or what else is it like, but we
Mourn?
Mourn?
Is it? Okay, go ahead. Continue your question.
Like you face each you face calmly like that, but like is it like something like you feel like calm calmly and but calm, you face life calmly and cheerful and just give it all with what you have like that?
No.
Like
Actually, yeah, this was a very, very short session, right? So let's say if there's something that you want out of life that you can't have and you're angry about it. Is that the case sometimes? Like if you cannot get what you want and then you're annoyed or you're angry? I'm asking you.
No, sorry. I meant like using is it? Can we use this for talking around like possibly? Can we use this like your style like that one? Is it to catch more like?
So you talk more about my style of speaking, as
like just like that your style. This one, this will be good for our. Will this be good for our speech around using like talking about like positivity like that one?
Now we're talking about being a Toastmaster speaking, yeah?
Like for, like just now when you use that style one, does it?
Yeah, so like,
for,
I'm not consciously or thinking about the style, but like throughout my process as a Toastmaster, where first, I really learned, like with the competent communicator, if you know, like you learn skill by skill by skill. And then eventually, you will get to the point, and this is what I would always also tell my mentees. So the most important thing is to connect with your heart. Speak from the heart. Speak what is it that really means something to you instead of performing. And I guess that has become my style now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah?
you.
For your time, Kate.
Is that clear?
Thank you
Yes,
for your
okay.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Miranda. And I know there are two gentlemen with questions, but I am afraid that we're being called for makan. And OC Victor Ong be very displeased with me if we're late. So I have to call this session to a wrap, to a close, but feel free to talk to any one of the three distinguished Toastmasters, and I like to invite them up on stage to acknowledge them. So please, Mark, Miranda, and SH, come up here. And I have some acknowledgements on behalf of the organizer to present to them. So, playing double roles here. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like to remind you that dinner, the welcome dinner, will start at 7:30 and will be at one level down. So thanks so much for your time and attention. Good night.